they're not always accurate or correct, and that can dictate your decision making and play a huge role in what you choose to do with your pregnancy or your birth. How many things are we being advised on based on a test that is not foolproof at all? And I think that's really important, to be careful with the decisions you make based on information that's not factual but maybe feels so.
Yes.
Welcome to Birth from Within, where inner wisdom meets grounded preparation. We're here to share raw, real birth stories and offer the insight and tools you need to move through the system with courage, clarity, and authority. You are made for this. Your body knows what to do. This podcast is the heart work of a nurse and a perinatal chiropractor, women who have walked our own birth journeys, and now we walk beside you. In each episode, we share practical tools, grounded wisdom, and deep reverence for your body's design. Let's return to the root, because birth doesn't start in a delivery room, birth starts from within. Hey, Myra. I'm
Elizabeth. I'm Myra. Nice to meet you.
Yep, great to meet you. Great to be here. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back, everyone. That's a good one.
Today we're going to be diving into ultrasounds. Ultrasounds are one of the first choices you'll have when you find out you're pregnant.
Yep.
First interventions, first appointments. And so we want to talk a little bit about what they are, why you may or may not get them.
And some stories.
Yes. Right? Yeah, we have some good stories. Ultrasounds have become so normal. So almost every pregnancy announcement now, you see people are holding their sonogram pictures. And it's wild to me. My mom had, I'm one of 5 kids. My mom had 5 pregnancies and only had ultrasounds in 2 of those pregnancies. And I thought that was so interesting. I was like, oh, wow, that's not
the norm.
I mean, yeah, like now you're off, like it's so common to have them. So let's go back. So that's the 80s. Now just 30 to 40 years later, the average amount of ultrasounds are 2 to 3 a pregnancy. So in a healthy, normal pregnancy, whereas you used to have 0, you now can expect 2 to 3 as routine. The first one is used often to date the pregnancy and confirm a heartbeat. And it's more accurate early on. I actually only had 1 ultrasound with both of my pregnancies. And that one is because I did not know. I was not tracking my period or my cycle. I didn't expect to get pregnant so quickly because our first baby had taken a year.
So wait, go back. With the first ultrasound, do you know how many weeks?
So I think I ended up being 11 at the time, but we had no idea if I was 8 weeks or 12 weeks.
When you said that the first one is to listen to the heartbeat and know the due date. Yes. So how many weeks is the norm that you should get that?
That's a great question. I actually don't know because I never went to an OB. Do you know? Like probably, I mean, most people don't even know until 6 weeks that they might be pregnant.
People start like if you're in a traditional OB is 10 weeks that's your first one. So I would guess in the first 12 weeks that they're doing this also.
So in the first trimester. Yes. So what even is ultrasound? One reason it's considered so safe is because it's not an X-ray technology. So they actually used to do X-rays on pregnant women. So you can see we're continually evolving for the good and the bad sometimes, but it can take a long time to course correct when something isn't beneficial or maybe even causes harm that's unknown.
X-ray right there is like the perfect example of when once we thought something was good, now it's completely like, no.
Completely contraindicated. Yes, you would avoid that machine at the airport.
So things, again, things can change.
Ultrasounds are not considered radiation. They are high frequency sound waves. And so it's interesting reading about that because we can't hear anything on those sound waves, but why it works is because there's fluid in your abdomen, your amniotic fluid, and it creates sound waves in that where you can create an image. That sound wave, while we can't hear it, the baby can hear it. And mostly, it's not right on top of the baby. And so it's advised that you never have the Doppler like right over the baby's head. You avoid it. And I know so many people are like, oh, my baby kept running away. They kept running away or hiding their face.
Like, yes, I'm burning here.
Yes, that direct impact can get up to 100 to 120 decibels. And that is alarming. Do you know what 100 to 120 decibels, how loud it is?
No.
It's anything from a loud airplane taking off, like a jet, to a concert. It's very, very loud. And so even as adults, that long exposure could cause hearing problems. So I will rule out right now, ultrasounds have not been shown to cause hearing issues. I think it's just interesting when you see a baby going away, it is for a reason. It's a loud noise that they're steering away from.
Yes.
And it also, they're listening to the pulse of the mom. They can hear the outside world. And that's something that's kind of cutting off that thing. And it can be, I can imagine, very frightening. Mm-hmm. So to me, that felt like I don't want to do that more than necessary.
The other one would be also that once you leave the head for 2-3 seconds, that increases the heat that you're sending.
Yes, it does
in the area.
It does create heat, yes. And they're advised to never leave it somewhere very long. But yes, I actually recently read they're looking at using that for long exposure to ultrasound to sterilize men as a form of birth control. Not sterilize, yeah, I guess. So there are, you hopefully avoid that and you have an experienced tech, but those are just good things to know that, they say it's safe, but yes. I have questions and at least would want to avoid my exposure to that if possible. So my first baby, I didn't do any ultrasounds. We did a Doppler for the heartbeat. And hindsight's 2020. And looking to have this conversation, I read that actually Dopplers can be more problematic, which is such a bummer. So now that I know that, I would definitely halt to using that as well. And so when we know better, we can do better.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
one of the reasons why we're building this podcast,
exactly.
Because now you know that, again, do you really want to use the fetal Doppler? Yes,
and we're not perfect, nor do we do things perfectly. Yeah. So we're still learning, and I think that's a huge piece of being able to pivot when you have new information. And if we had it earlier, it could have helped guide us.
Yeah. And again, this is not medical advice. Use this information however you need to take it, because again, emergency, right? Places
there are extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, it's okay.
So first,
but just know fetal Dopplers are more...
Yeah, even more sound. I think it's that it's constant sound waves versus an ultrasound Doppler. It's in increments, and so it's not quite as constant. Through researching, we both came to the conclusion that what's recommended as the safest option is a fetoscope.
Yes.
Fetoscope. So asking your provider if that's an option. If you want to hear heart tones, that's maybe safest with lowest risk.
Which I don't know any stories yet of doctors not having it, but I can only imagine how many doctors carry that.
A fetoscope. Even midwives. I don't know that my midwife had one.
That's a good question for when we interview other people.
Yes. Yeah. Or just a good question to ask your provider. Is that an option for
us? Yes.
So regardless of your choice, I think even the home birth world, almost every mother, it's become standard of care to have that 20-week anatomy scan. A lot of times you find out the gender if you want to know, and seemingly confirms if you have a healthy baby or not. So I remember getting to that point and just being like, I don't know, I don't really want to have this, but I feel a little bit of pressure to have this. And so I did some dialoguing and reading and praying to make the right decision for me. And I remember talking to my sister about it because she hadn't had ultrasounds. I don't know if in any pregnancies, but definitely not her first. And her question was, would any information cause you to do something differently? And I thought that was a very powerful question because a lot of times ultrasounds are used to decide if you'll terminate a pregnancy or not. And for me, that was, again, I wouldn't choose that for myself no matter what news we found out. And so there was nothing that would change my mind or make me end the pregnancy. And so I opted out of doing that. And we weren't going to find out the gender. So it was a little bit easier for me maybe than some people. Yeah. Because gender is probably the primary reason a lot of people have the ultrasound. The interesting thing with ultrasounds is ultrasounds are fallible. They're not always accurate or correct, and that can dictate your decision making and play a huge role in what you choose to do with your pregnancy or your birth. So a couple stories. One is my midwife herself, I think it was her second, maybe third baby. She was pregnant and she had an ultrasound and was told her baby had Down syndrome. And she was a single mom, and she said from every visit from there on out, they would come in and say, this is going to be too much for you, just end your pregnancy. And that every time they were saying, do you want to terminate your pregnancy now? And she was like, no, I'm not terminating my pregnancy. Stop asking me. But the question persisted.
Yeah.
Well, she had her baby, perfectly normal girl, healthy, did not have Down syndrome. And that breaks my heart.
Wait, say that again.
She was told her baby would have Down syndrome, had a baby, did not have Down syndrome. I want to be clear that I don't think, it breaks my heart that would be a reason that somebody would terminate a pregnancy. I understand health issues come with their own set of challenges, but that is so sad that saying this diagnosis means you don't deserve a chance to live. Had her baby had Down syndrome, would it have been a mistake to carry through the pregnancy? No. But it's to show the whole pregnancy, she thinks she's having a baby with a disability and extra care, and it was perfectly normal. So how many babies were maybe terminated in utero for that reason, and that wasn't even going to be their life?
Yeah.
So that can happen, and that to me was a very alarming story. The other end of that is I worked in postpartum, and I had a mom that had done all routine care, had ultrasounds, had a standard hospital birth, worked with an OB, and she thought she was having a perfectly healthy baby. And then she had a baby that was born with some severe malformations, cleft lip, cleft palate, so she wasn't able to breastfeed. There were some genetic things with like hair growth, so she looked different than other babies. And for this mom to find out at that time, it was such a pivot to accept it, because she thought it was her second kid. She'd already had a normal healthy baby, and she didn't know how to navigate it. And yes, you might say, I want this test so that I can be prepared for that, and I understand that, but hers was missed, and so she still had to navigate in real time and process through something that was unknown. And so her testing didn't catch it, and that can happen. So it's not necessarily, it's not a foolproof method to know if there will be
good.
If something will be different. Twins. You might think, like, I want to know if I have a double pregnancy. Well, there's a woman I follow online that does a lot of conversations about birth, and she was having a home birth and went past her due date, so she ended up doing a late ultrasound, and everything looked normal, and peace of mind. That's another reason they might push you to do it towards the end, just to check on everything. What do you know? She had twins at home. No idea. They had no idea she was having twins.
Wow.
And that blows my mind. That seems like a huge miss. Like, how is that wrong? And that to me just begets questions of how many things are we being advised on based on a test that is not foolproof at all. Yeah. On the other side is it can be used to push you to make decisions like an induction, right? You're measuring very big. Ultrasounds can be off by up to 5 pounds with a weight. So to use it to say, your baby's too big, we need to get this baby out.
Or your baby too small. Like, again, both sides.
And that's a lot of stress in your pregnancy. Or your fluid is too low. Fluid, that's a really good thing. It's ever changing. I read it's not like a car. You don't run out. You just drink more water. Like, you just increase your fluids, and your amniotic fluid will increase. But yet so often that's a reason to push induction or intervention. Big babies. Too small pelvis. So using it to measure a pelvis. Your pelvis is not fixed, which is a wild thing that God created with a pelvis that expands. You probably could say more about this, but how much your different positions change the width of your pelvis. So you might measure in an ultrasound and saying, oh, you have a small pelvis, your baby won't fit. Well, guess what? If you bend forward, it gets bigger.
If you move your legs in a certain way, the pelvic outlet opens up too.
Which is a pro for being able to move in birth, because positioning correct and changing your position can help that baby get down and through the pelvis.
Yeah. In the last week of pregnancy, relaxing, that's a hormone that increases in your body and makes all of the joints more movable, more lax. So that's why usually at the end of pregnancy, women are wobbling. Because of that.
They're more nimble, literally.
But then that's the body also preparing, like, to open up. But then what positioning are you giving this body to, like, really open up in birth? So small pelvis, oh my God, no.
Yes, that and just an induction when your body, there's so many things you and baby release that your body naturally does that we step in too early, and so you don't have those extra hormones for a more pliable pelvis. You don't have the baby's hormone that is released saying their lungs are mature. There's certain things that happen that are physiologically there, but we use a fallible tool to say, oh, we can't let your baby get any bigger. And then so often, I've heard it more times than I can count, that they thought their baby was going to be huge, and it was like a 7-pound baby.
Yes.
I never had an ultrasound. I was actually pretty small. I didn't get a ton of weight. I had an almost 9-pound baby, right? That fit through, and I'm 5'4". I'm a decently average to small person, and that giant first baby, it was hard, but she fit out, and a lot of it was positioning and different stuff, and we had no idea. But had I been in medical care, I'm sure there would have been a greater push to be like, Maybe, but then you're like, would they have thought she was so big? Because sometimes you have no idea your baby's going to be so big. So just saying it's almost arbitrary because of how flawed that measurement can be. And I think that's really important, to be careful with the decisions you make based on information that's not factual, but maybe feels so.
Yes. So you were saying that we use ultrasound in the beginning for gender reveal.
Yes, which is a very common event in today's society. Yeah, so I feel like everybody wants to know the gender of their baby. We did not find out with either child, and I feel like the almost nearly unanimous consensus was, I could never do that. Well, my response was just like, you don't have to. For us, like, when we wanted this, we were okay either way. I don't know if I had a strong wish either way. Like we had a girl first, and that was a huge surprise. And then I really thought we were having a boy second. But when we had another girl, I just feel like it was so unexpected and ended up being the greatest gift. And I never had time to feel a disappointment that we didn't have a boy. Like we are so thrilled with our girls. Yet, I think because everybody knows there's a piece that, yeah, you can plan for it, but it maybe begets to planning for all the wrong things. Like a cute pink nursery that you're not even gonna need for months and months and months, right? Like minus some decisions like circumcision, there are very few decisions you're making that are gender-based. That might be the only one, right? Of people deciding, and that's something you can know the decision that you're gonna make before knowing if you have a boy or girl. I just feel like gender disappointment would be less if you didn't find out earlier, because when you meet your baby,
yeah,
it's just
I did it the opposite way.
You had to know.
I was saying every time I hear a person say, "Oh, I'm waiting," like as a surprise, I'm like, "Oh my God, you're amazing! I could never wait." I just didn't know why, but I always wanted to know what I was getting. The first one, I wanted so much a girl because I can do bows and skirts and this and that.
Clothes are cuter.
Yes, and then got to the ultrasound, and this is my first pregnancy. I did find out in all of the other ones, but I did a blood test, which that's an alternative that you can do if you're interested in that. That's usually 7 to 10 weeks. Wow. That's when you can...
And just like an arm blood draw?
It is a blood draw, and they will check for like trisomy 21, like Down syndrome, or any genetic thing. But then because in the genes is your gender, they can see that last chromosome and tell you if it's a boy or girl.
And did you did that with your first pregnancy when you were very young?
So with my first pregnancy, I did ultrasound because I didn't know best. And I even remember it was like inside ultrasound. I didn't know that existed either. Because we were used to the one
transvaginal.
Yes. That wasn't for gender. That was more to confirm pregnancy. Okay. And then I have another ultrasound to confirm gender, which again, I thought it was going to be a girl. It was a boy, and I cried. Everybody around me was, yay, a boy. And I was like, oh.
I feel like you're the opposite of most people.
Yeah.
I will say there is a piece, even on the other pro of that, you were able to shift, and I'm sure then we're very happy. Yeah. And then it's easier to pick a name, and I think there's something special about a named baby that you know, and you're bonding with the baby.
Yes.
And that's the only piece occasionally I miss, as you're like abstractly picking names, not quite knowing. Like there are pieces that are hard.
Yeah.
But it's something that forces you to let up control.
It wasn't like a complete disappointment, right? Like, okay, I didn't get the boy. But then looking back, like having a boy the first time was so much easier for me. Oh. Like he's such a sweet boy. Like he's so attached to me. Like really cute. I really I loved having a boy. I didn't know how much I wanted a boy,
Yes.
So I understand now why God said, here, a boy, because your girls are going to be very drama, so you can wait.
I'll give you a softball to start.
Yeah. But what you mentioned about the connection, that's something real, right? Yeah. Babies are already forming memories in utero. So the more, right, like you're already associating it with, like it's something yours, right? Like we don't call it the baby. That's something I like in my practice to say, okay, what's the baby's name, so we can talk about that name. Yeah. Some people still keep it a surprise, but we find a name, right? Because it's not just the baby, it's like your baby. Yeah,
At least baby's an improvement from it. Well, I think that's a great point, though, that as you learn, there is another way to find out gender if that's very important to you, that you can do a blood test and you don't have to do it via ultrasound.
Yes.
And that's not shaming. Most people do find out. It's just saying there is something special about waiting, as there are very few surprises. So I think there's some moms that kind of said too, like, this is so special and so unique and loved when you wait, but it's very uncommon, and that's okay.
Yeah. I would think that the whole day, right, like after having your baby, to say, oh my God, it's a girl, right? Like, how did you feel when you had a surprise girl?
Elated. And then neither of them, I think, had a name. Well, our first one had a name right away, but the second one, it was like almost a day and a half. But no, we were so expecting a boy, but it was just so happy. Sometimes you don't even think about it. I know other friends that waited too, and it's not even the first thing you're thinking about when you meet your baby of like, is it a boy or a girl? I remember we had a friend too that they're like, do you want to know? And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I guess we do. But you're just not even, it's so far from that, like it's so far from your mind. You're just embracing your baby and reveling in what you just did and the miracle that there's a soul in your hands now. I mean, it's so miraculous. I know reading in pregnancy groups and friends that I've talked to that there's so much fear often around your birth experience because it's so unknown. And so it's something that we cannot control, but we live in a society where we thrive in control. We want to know everything so we can plan and control it. But pregnancy and birth and parenting, I think, are all a practice in surrendering.
Yes.
And convicting about how little control we really have. Whether it's gender or any other piece of it, I think there is an exercise in surrender and being in tune with your body, listening to it, knowing your baby through how you feel instead of outsourcing all of that to a test and to medical care and to other authorities telling you, like you're it's step one in saying, here, tell me things about my inside, where it's like you're living and breathing it. And it's so hard because early on especially you're like, am I really? Even though your body's screaming like, yes, I'm nauseous, yes, you're tired, you're so tired. You know, there's so many things that happen, but yet still, I know for me too, it was like, but I need more information. I need more. So on the flip side, my second baby, she came unexpected. So we decided to get that ultrasound with her because we were gonna have a 2-month range of guest window over the holidays with out-of-town family and support. And my midwife was just like, that's a lot of unknown and stress. Are you sure? And so I was like, yeah. And she's like, the longer you wait, the less accurate your date will be. So it's pretty important if you want to know. And she was never one to push ultrasound, but she's like,
you need this.
You might, this could really help you, I think. And so we did weigh out that I think the knowing, 1, to confirm the heartbeat, and 2, to date the pregnancy, which we thought maybe we were 8 weeks and found out we were 11. And so that really shifted things of being sooner than we had expected. There are times where the stress is the bigger risk and knowing may be helpful. So when we opted to go to the ultrasound, we were recommended a tech because I think that matters too. Like, do you have an experienced technician? Is it a medical facility? Is it regulated and trustworthy? And I think the more picturesque and 4D you get, the less, I don't know that I want to say safe, but at least less regulated it is. So you can go in with questions and be empowered to know like what you're getting into, more about the technology, more about the technician. So this one I remember going in and I think we were just stressed about everything. And so we went in and just said, we really want it to be fast. We're just looking to confirm the heartbeat and get a due date. Well, it was probably 20 minutes and I'm just thinking of this little baby and all the things that I know. And she had a kind of checklist that she had to fulfill of finding out information. And so she was waiting to finish. She couldn't find something in like a left kidney or something. And so it was like 5 extra minutes, I think very localized. And I wish I would have had the gumption or no, I could have just said, no, we're done. That's all we needed, because you can say that. Like what did her report do? It did nothing. My provider wasn't waiting for this ultrasound. You can say like, what is the information you're looking for? Do you have it? And you can be done if it's so long. Like I read somebody went for an anatomy scan that was 2 hours. And so just that kind of thing, you're like, is that better or worse? Just another practice of if you decide to go that route, knowing that you have a voice here and they're working for you.
Yeah, it's good that you said the 2 hours, because then if you think about it, with all that we've talked today, it was 2 hours of extra heating, 2 hours of
sound, like the sound waves.
extra 2 hours of that.
The baby's
sound.
running away from the sound.
Yes.
I think the last story I want to share is that I had mentioned my mom and her limited ultrasounds with most of the pregnancies. Well, the one that she was urged to do was her 4th baby, and they sent her in because they thought she was measuring big, and that's just the measurement, I think, from your pelvis to your belly button probably is what that was based off of. Well, she said she was very, very small. She had 3 young kids. My dad had traveled a lot, so I think she was the smallest of her life, pregnant with her 4th baby. And a lot of times consecutive pregnancies, you do pop faster. And anyway, so they sent her in and then found out she had placenta previa. So then she became very high risk.
Wait. We do pop faster. Why? With each pregnancy, your body now first knows what it's doing, but also like your ligaments and everything is more stretched out, you know? So it's like you show up very quickly and even lower too. I would say if you don't work body work or even pelvic floor, then the odds are we didn't really heal correctly, so we're showing earlier and lower.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So there you go.
Good.
So she probably definitely was, because there was also so many less resources.
Yes.
And sadly, pelvic floor therapy and other things to help women heal and recoup are not, even now, not so prevalent. And back then, I think it was non-existent. Absolutely. And then she had 3 young kids. So, she was not, I'm sure, in her most optimal functioning body.
And how do you remember how long did she wait in between?
So she said, I think still with this diagnosis, she said she still had 3 ultrasounds for this, quotes, high-risk pregnancy. But they found the previa, and then that is a huge stress. So placenta previa is when your placenta is covering a piece of your
it's in the
birth canal. It's like blocking the exit.
Yes.
And so it can be a medical emergency. It's absolutely, if that did not resolve, that would be a reason for a C-section.
Yes.
True medical emergency. But your placenta is moving throughout your whole pregnancy. And so there's so much stress there to say, we're high risk, like be so careful. They've tried to put her, she had to be on bed rest for 3 months. Well, by month 7, it had resolved completely and everything was fine. Yeah. But it created a
unnecessary stress
and became like a high risk baby, and that just that cascades. And that has been a big piece of the story between my mom and my little sister.
Because you were saying the higher the risk, the more intervention in the hospital, the worse, right? They could be making something.
Yes, because interventions, while at times necessary, often are not and lead to the reason for more interventions.
Yes.
So I think our main takeaway here is that ultrasounds have become routine and potentially even overused. And so it's just questioning the use and helping you realize that you have a choice, that everything is going to be a risk-benefit contrast and ratio, and to maybe use discretion.
Yeah, that was good. That they know they have a choice, and this will serve them to know how many ultrasounds they want to do. Or if they do all of them, then there is a risk.
Or could be.
It could be.
Unknown. There's an unknown.
Risk. This is birth from within. If we are trusting our innate, trusting that our body is perfect, right? Why do we really need an ultrasound? The one ultrasound that I do just because, again, the controlling part and all this stuff is that 20-week ultrasound to make sure that everything is growing how it's supposed to. Yeah. That doesn't mean that they will get everything that could be wrong with your baby, but for me at least was a peace of mind that everything was okay.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't, in the long run, that one. Yeah. Yes.
And there is a beautiful benefit to peace of mind.
But every visit that I go to my OB, do I want an ultrasound? I would always say no.
And you had said there was a way to find out your gender without an ultrasound. It's the same for your due date. If you're tracking your period at all, you'll calculate your due date based off of that last menstrual period. So there are other alternatives to find out things.
Yes.
And then there are exceptions where, for me, I had no idea. Embarrassingly.
Yes.
And if that's the case, there are benefits to where it can bring peace of mind and clarity to things that we do need to have a little control over, maybe. But on the other side, realizing that it can be a practice that preps you for labor and motherhood and next steps if you step into surrendering, trusting God's design, and believing in your body's innate capabilities and your baby.
Yeah. Cool. I was going to say, the one is okay, but the repetition, right?
Yeah.
That's everything in life. You need a balance, because if you're too much with something, there are risks, so who knows what could happen to you.
The information provided in this podcast is not medical advice. It is anecdotal and for general knowledge and informational purposes only. It is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have. The use of this information is at your own risk.